guys, and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be talking the top 10 fantasy books of 2023 based on Goodreads. So, as some of you may know, Goodreads does a Goodreads Choice Awards every year where readers choose their top reads, and then they go through a voting process, and then based off of how many votes there are, there's the top one winner, but then they also give you the entire list of everything that was nominated and how many votes it got. So based off of that list, I will be talking about the top 10 books. So let's get into it. I own 8 out of 10 of the books on this list. So we're going to start off with number 10. It's The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. So I have yet to read an Adrienne Young book. I do have the entire Fable series as well as Spells for Forgetting, but I have yet to get to it. I have heard amazing things about this book. I've been at the bookstore every time I mean to look for it, and I forget about it. So it is rated 4.21 on Goodreads. It says, a woman risks everything to end her family's centuries-old curse, solve her mother's disappearance, and find love in this mesmerizing novel from the New York Times best-selling author of Spells for Forgetting. After her grandmother's death and her mother's disappearance, she starts hearing things and seeing a door. She realizes that she can touch the door and it's not just a hallucination. And so she steps through the door and she embarks on a journey that solves, I think, the mystery of her mother's disappearance, the mystery of some issues within the small town, and it entangles her in what they call an epic star-crossed love. It is magical realism, romance. It has like the mystery subplot, figuring out what happened to her mother and what happened, what's causing the town's issues and mysteries. Ooh, and it says there's time travel in it. So that is number 10. I am going to be picking that up at the bookstore whenever I go next because it sounds so cute. And I really need a good magical realism right now, and especially because, I don't know, I feel like magical realism always makes me think of like spring and fall, so it's gonna be like a very vibey spring book, I think. Coming in at number 9, we have Starling House by Alex E. Harrow, and this is about an orphan and she's trying to find a way to have a better future for her brother, and she's obsessed with Starling House and the author E. Starling, and she steps foot into the house and there's a bunch of like mysteries unlocked. It says she finally found a reason to stick around and that she has to fight. And it says, welcome to Starling House, enter if you dare. The book is described as a gorgeously modern gothic fantasy, and then in the little white writing, like in between the synopsis, it says, I dream sometimes about a house I've never seen. I should be scared, but in the dream I don't hesitate. In my dream I'm home. So I think this is open to interpretation until you read it. I think it's going to have a lot of mystery in it, and I think it's very like dark, not dark fantasy, but gothic, darker fantasy. And this was a new release last year, so I'm very surprised that it's on the list, and I think that it means it's very popular with people. It is rated 3.87 on Goodreads. I will definitely be reading this at some point this year. I know my mom's read it and she liked it a lot. So this is very exciting because I do love a darker, mysterious fantasy. And then we have number 8, which is The Adventures of Amina El Sarafi, and this is written by Shannon Chakraborty. So the synopsis of this book is, Amina El Sarafi should be content. After a storied and scandalous career as one of the Indian Ocean's most notorious pirates, she survived backstabbing rogues, vengeful merchant princes, several husbands, and one actual demon to retire peacefully with her family to a life of piety, motherhood, and absolutely nothing that hints of the supernatural. But when she's tracked down by the obscenely wealthy mother of a former crewman, she's offered a job no bandit could refuse: retrieve her comrade's kidnapped daughter for a kingly sum. The chance to have one last adventure with her crew, do right by an old friend, and win a fortune that will secure her family's future forever, it seems like such an obvious choice that it must be God's will. Yet the deeper Amina dives, the more it becomes alarmingly clear there's more to this job and the girl's disappearance than Sheila was led to believe. For there's always a risk in wanting to become a legend, to seize one last chance at glory, to savor just a bit more power, and the price might be your very soul. This makes me extremely happy because I love, one, that it's written by a woman, and two, I love that it's a woman pirate that we get to see. And it's not only just a tale of, you know, a regular pirate, but there's also super fantastical elements involved, like supernatural creatures. And this one sounds like a great summer read. I know I always get into my pirate era in the summer because it's very beachy, very vibey that way. I definitely plan on getting to this one sometime probably in the summer. Like I said, this one is rated 4.3 on Goodreads, and I think it says this is #1, so I'm kind of hoping that it'll wind up being more than just one book, because I do love me a good woman pirate. So yeah, this one, it sounds amazing, and I've been planning on reading it. Coming in at #7, we have Cassandra Clare's Swordcatcher. This is just a gorgeous book in general. I love the colors on it. You know, we don't really get a lot of red fantasy books, so I just think it's gorgeous. And there's like the naked hardback is also just as gorgeous, and the map is gorgeous inside as well. So overall, it's just a stunning fantasy book. Cassandra Clare is obviously very widely known for her The Last Hour series, Mortal Instruments, Infernal Devices. She has an entire world out there that she's built that I have not read yet, but this one is even praised by George R.R. Martin on the front. It says everything I look for in fantasy. So that's obviously a huge compliment. The synopsis of this one is, in the vibrant city-state of Castellane, the richest of nobles and the most debauched of criminals have one thing in common: the constant search for wealth, power, and the next hedonistic thrill. Kel is an orphan, stolen from the life he knew to become the Swordcatcher, the body double of a royal heir, Prince Connor Aurelian. He has been raised alongside the prince, trained in every aspect of combat and statecraft. He and Connor are as close as brothers, but Kel knows that his destiny is to die for Connor. No other future is possible. Ladencaster is one of the Ashgar, a small community whose members still possess magical abilities. By law, they must live behind walls within the city, but Lynn, a physician, ventures out to tend to the sick and dying of Castellane. Despite her skills, she cannot heal her best friend without access to forbidden knowledge. After a failed assassination attempt brings Lynn and Kel together, they are drawn into the web of the mysterious Rag Picker King, the criminal ruler of Castellane's underworld, who offers them each what they want most. But as the two descend into his world of intrigue and shadow, they discover a conspiracy of corruption that reaches from the darkest gutters of Castellane to the highest towers of its palaces. As long-kept secrets begin to unravel, they must ask themselves, is knowledge worth the price of betrayal? Can forbidden love bring down a kingdom? And will their discoveries plunge their nation into war and the world into chaos? So this one sounds like it's going to be a little dark, because we have, you know, the underworld, and we have two people who are confined to live in these small worlds that want to venture out and like see the world, basically. I think this is going to be amazing. I'm really excited to experience her writing, and I hope this is not going to be, you know, the last, either if she's going to do a series with this or if she plans on doing more standalone fantasy novels like this, because I think I can really get into her writing with this and then finally dedicate to her other series and the gigantic world that she created. I'm really excited because it's supposed to have really great world building and political intrigue, which I really love every once in a while when we kind of tone back on the romance and we actually get to see more of like a fantastical world. So I will be reading this one also probably at some point this year, hopefully. Before we move on, Swordcatcher is rated 3.83 stars on Goodreads, and it says, I think it's going to be part of a series because it says The Chronicles of Castellane #1. So hopefully she'll continue on as a series. Coming in at #6 is The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. Now, I haven't read anything more fantasy of V.E. Schwab. I read most of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, but it was kind of slow for me, and I wound up like soft DNFing it. I do plan on picking it back up and probably rereading it, the first part, and then finishing the end. I know that this is connected to her A Darker Shade of Magic series, which I do have the first one of, but I haven't read it yet, but I was planning on reading it soon. And I believe this is going to be the first one in the Threads of Power series. It is connected to A Darker Shade of Magic. It says it is set in the same world. This one is, once there were 4 worlds nestled like pages in a book, each pulsing with fantastical power and connected by a single city, London. Until the magic grew too fast and forced the worlds to seal the doors between them in a desperate gamble to protect their own. The few magicians who could still open the doors grew more rare as time passed on, and now only 3 Antari are known in recent memory: Calmaresh of Red London, Delilah Bard of Grey London, and Holland Vosage of White London. But barely a glimpse of them have been seen in the last 7 years, and a new Antari named Kosika has appeared in White London, taking the throne in Holland's absence. The young queen is willing to feed her city with blood, including her own, but her growing religious fervor has the potential to drown them instead. And back in Red London, King Raimaresh is threatened by a rising rebellion, one determined to correct the balance of power by raising the throne entirely. Amid this tapestry of old friends and new enemies, a girl with an unusual magic ability comes into possession of a device that could change the fate of all 4 worlds. Her name is Tess, and she's the only one who can bring them together or unravel it all. This one sounds like so much fun. I love the idea of multiple universes that are all connected in some way. I also love the explicit use of magic. I love learning about new magic systems, and I really think this book is going to be amazing because it is built off of an entire another series and an entire another world. It's already been developed, and I have heard that people do really love this series. Everyone that I've seen that has read this really loves this book, and it is rated 4.36 on Goodreads. I eventually plan on reading this one, but I do want to read A Darker Shade of Magic first so that I can understand the world, and I'm pretty sure you probably need to read those before you read this. Coming in at number 5, we have Bookshops and Bone Dust by Travis Baldree. I love Travis Baldree. If you want a high fantasy but cozy fantasy with low stakes, his books are amazing. Legends and Lattes is technically it came out first, but this is the prequel to Legends and Lattes. So read Legends and Lattes first and then get to this one. I listened to Legends and Lattes on audiobook and it was phenomenal. Travis Baldree, he voice acted it himself. It is about an orc who finds a magic stone, and she is done fighting with her crew, and she wants to open a coffee shop because she discovers coffee and she wants to spread her love of coffee with the world. So she winds up opening a coffee shop, and she curates a ragtag group of individuals that help her run this coffee shop, and it is so amazing. It's not like the lowest stakes where nothing happens. There is still mystery, there's still tension, there is devastation in it, but it is a really good book. Anyway, moving on to this one that is on the list for last year, which was a new release as well. This one is technically number 0 in the series, so it's a prequel. It says Viv is a young, battle-hungry orc, but her career with the notorious mercenary company Rackham's Ravens isn't going as planned. Wounded during the hunt for a powerful necromancer, she's packed off against her will to recuperate in the sleepy beach town of Merg, so far from the action that she worries she'll never be able to return to. What's a thwarted soldier of fortune to do? Spending her hours at a beleaguered bookshop in the company of its foul-mouthed proprietor is the last thing Viv would have predicted, but it may be both exactly what she needs and the seeds of changes she couldn't possibly imagine. Still, adventure isn't all that far away. A suspicious traveler in grey, a gnome with a chip on her shoulder, a summer fling, and an improbable number of skeletons prove Merc to be more eventful than Viv could have ever expected. I'm so excited because Legends and Lattes is so good, and I'm really excited to get more of Travis Baldree's writing style and more unique characters from him. This is rated 4.26 on Goodreads. Now coming in at number 4, we have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This cover is just so gorgeous. I love that it gives cottagecore vibes. It's just so stinking cute. The little blip before the synopsis says, a curmudgeonly professor journeys to a small town in the far north to study fairy folklore and discovers dark magic, friendship, and love in this heartwarming and enchanting fantasy. It says, Cambridge professor Emily Wilde is a genius scholar who is writing the world's first encyclopedia of fairy lore, and Emily lives for her work. She emphatically prefers the company of her books, her dog, Shadow, and the fair folk to other people. So when she arrives in a hard scrabble village in the far north, Emily wishes only to focus on her studies. She certainly doesn't have time for another new arrival, her dashing and insufferably handsome academic rival, Wendell Bambleby, who manages to charm the townsfolk, muddle Emily's research, and utterly confound and frustrate her. But as Emily gets closer and closer to uncovering the secrets of the Hidden Ones, the most elusive of all fairies, lurking in the shadowy forest outside the town, she also finds herself on the trail of another mystery. Who is Wendell Bamblebee, and what does he really want? To find the answer, she must unlock the greatest mystery of all, her own heart. So I'm very excited because this is definitely fantasy in the cottagecore sense, where we're talking about fae as they are like little fairies, and we're talking cottagecore because it's definitely like the forest vibes, and we have academic rivals, so I think it's going to be enemies to lovers, and it's just so cute. And Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands also came out. I believe it was 2024 that it came out. I'm very excited to read this one. I have heard it's a little slow, but I'm very excited for this one actually. And it's written in journal format, so I think that is adorable. I always love like a good book that's written in like journal entry form. I think this is also going to be a cozy fantasy, so I think this will be great for the spring, or if I wind up waiting and reading it for the fall. This one is rated 4.06 on Goodreads. At number 3, we have this absolute chunker of a book, and it's A Day of Fall and Night. This is the prequel to the Priory of the Orange Tree, which I have both. I did start Priory of the Orange Tree probably close to 2 years ago, and I soft DNF'd it just because it was a lot for me at the time. It is super high fantasy, epic fantasy. It is like 6 different point of views, so many different things going on, but it is phenomenal from what I have read of it. So I know this one's going to be amazing. It is gorgeous. I love that there's dragons in this series. So this says, Tunuva Malim is a sister of the Priory. For 50 years, she has trained to slay worms, but none have appeared since the Nameless One, and the younger generation is starting to question the Priory's purpose. To the north, in the Queendom of Ines, Sabran the Ambitious has married the new king of Farah, narrowly saving both realms from ruin. Their daughter, Glorian, trails in their shadow exactly where she wants to be. The dragons of the east have slept for centuries. Dumaya has spent her life in a Sychanese mountain temple, trying to wake the gods from their long slumber. Now someone from her mother's past is coming to upend her fate. When the dread mount erupts, bringing with it an age of terror and violence, these women must find the strength to protect humankind from a devastating threat. So it is an epic fantasy. It says it, obviously it happens in the same world as the Priory of the Orange Tree, and it shows the course of events that shaped it for the generations to come. So it is, you know, everything that happened to, you know, bring out the world in the Priory of the Orange Tree, and to kind of explain everything that probably how the Priory of the Orange Tree starts out. And it is so long. These books are so big. I don't know how Samantha Shannon does it. She writes gigantic books, and they're so intricate. Like this is over 800 pages, and I like that some of it is sapphic, and that it is a lot of the main characters are women. They always call it a feminist fantasy. I really love that. And it is just, this cover is just stunning. If you have the time and the stamina to read this book. I'm sure once you start it and get into it, it flies. Like I said, what I read of the Priory of the Orange Tree was absolutely phenomenal. I also have The Bone Season by her, I have not read yet. This one is rated 4.4 on Goodreads, and it says it is number 0 of the Roots of Chaos series. So I don't know if she's doing more after the Priory of the Orange Tree. Coming in at number 2, we have Trust of the Emerald Sea. Now I have the Kickstarter version. My husband and I did not back the Kickstarter because we didn't know about it, so we didn't get the boxes, but we did buy these off of Dragonsteel. So this is all foiled, and there is full art throughout the book. So as you can see, there is full art within the book. So this is the first book that came out in his year of Sanderson with the Secret Projects. This is very different from his normal writing style. This is very fairy tale. It gives you, you know, the vibes of a typical fairy tale like Cinderella or Snow White, but in this, the girl goes on the adventure to find the boy she loves. So it says, in the middle of the ocean, there was a girl who lived upon a rock. This was not an ocean like the one you have imagined, nor was the rock like the one you have imagined. The girl, however, might be as you imagined, assuming you imagined her as thoughtful, soft-spoken, and overly fond of collecting cups. So this is about Tress. They're on a different planet, so there are different rocks that they live on, and she lives under the, I believe it's the green moon. He uses a lot of humor in his books, so her name is Tress, but her real name is Glorf, and I love that, and it's hysterical. So yeah, she lives under the verdant moon, so the green moon, and from each moon they drop these things called spores. So they are zephyr spores, and they create the ocean. So there's no water. The oceans are all made of these spores that if they come into contact with water, they each do something different. So the green spores, if they come into contact with any inkling of water, they sprout into vines. So if you breathe them in, they get into your lungs, you basically die. And she falls in love with the prince of her rock, and she goes on an adventure across the oceans, and she has to find him, and she has a little sidekick, a talking rat, and she loves collecting cups that come from different places. So it's basically just her adventure, her growth as a person who's very sheltered and then now gets to experience the world, and there are a lot of quirky crew members she becomes friends with. I really loved this book. I read it on the Kindle because this cover is just too beautiful to read. This was actually my first Brandon Sanderson book and the only one that I have read so far. But I just know it's different from his normal writing because he writes in the Cosmere and it's normally very serious, and this is just very quirky and goofy and, you know, fairy tale-esque. He follows, you know, a similar plot line to what a normal fairy tale follows. I do, from personal experience, recommend this one. It is a pirate adventure. It is, like I said, it's hysterical. It has you laughing. It is gorgeous, and the intricacy of the ocean and how it moves and all of that is all very, very intricate for just a, not a short story, but a one-off book that he's creating. And it is connected to the Cosmere. Hoyd is in this book, and I believe he's the one telling the story. Yeah, I highly recommend this one. They do sell like the general copies at Barnes & Noble. This one is rated 4.44 on Goodreads, so definitely pick this one up if you're in the mood for a funny, I guess, low stakes kind of fantasy. It's just very fun and quirky. Coming in at number 1, we have Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. I have never read anything by Leigh Bardugo, but she does have the entire Grishaverse that she wrote. And the first book to this is Ninth House, which is actually on my TBR for this month, the month of March. This one says, wealth, power, murder, magic. Alex Stern is back and the Ivy League is going straight to hell. So I know that Ninth House is, I think, based off of, I want to say it's the Yale campus, and there's like a dark society that she's involved in. I know it's very dark magic, stuff like that. But it says, find a gateway to the underworld, steal a sword of hell. A simple plan, except people who make this particular journey rarely come back. But Galaxy, Alex Stern, is determined to break Darlington out of purgatory, even if it costs her a future at Lathe and at Yale. Forbidden from attempting a rescue, Alex and Dawes can't call on the Ninth House for help, so they assemble a team of dubious allies to save the gentlemen of Lathe. Together, they will have to navigate a maze of arcane texts and bizarre artifacts to uncover the Society's most closely guarded secrets and break every rule doing it. But when faculty members begin to die off, Alex knows these aren't just accidents. Something deadly is at work in New Haven, and if she's going to survive, she'll have to reckon with the monsters of her past and the darkness built into the university's very wall. So there's a lot of violence, monsters, and magic, and a lot of twists in here. So I believe this is considered more of a dark magical fantasy. People call it grotesque and eerie, which those words really call to me. I do love a good creepy fantasy. I love anything that's creepy and out of the ordinary. I love reading about those things. I think they're very interesting because it just makes it more fantastical because it feels like it could never happen. But since Ninth House is on my March TBR, maybe I'll put Hellbent on my April TBR. If I do wind up getting to Ninth House, which I have had it for so long that I really need to pick it up. I have heard only really great things about this duology. I am very excited to get into it, especially because this won Fantasy of the Year, which is crazy because it beat out all of these other, you know, phenomenal books, so this one has to be amazing. This one is rated 4.15 on Goodreads, so definitely check this one out as well. So those are the top 10 fantasies according to the Goodreads Choice Awards for 2023. As you can see, I own a lot of them, and the 2 that I don't own I am planning on reading. So The Unmaking of June Farrow and The Fragile Threads of Power. That one I would own, but I want to read A Darker Shade of Magic first. I think that this list is very accurate to what people love from what I've seen from everybody. So do take note and listen to these lists. They will help you find something that you love. And I think they also highlight a lot of very, very popular books. And from a lot of different genres, like, you know, we got some epic fantasy, high fantasy, we've got some fantasy with some romance in there, which Romantasy had its own category this year, but yeah. And then we had a lot of gothic fantasy, cottagecore fantasy, cozy fantasy, so there was a lot of different subgenres mixed into that as well. So yeah, I think it is a very representative list. There are more on that list than just 10. Go check that out on Goodreads and see all of the reviews and see some of the other books that were ranked on there as well and see how many votes they each got. But yeah, I am going to be reading probably all of these within this year because a lot of these were 2023 new releases. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you are still watching, let me know if you've read any of these books, and if you have, let me know what you rated them and how you reviewed them. If not, let me know some of your favorite fantasies of 2023, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!